Power fades the moment it becomes ordinary. What is easily accessible loses its edge, because the world does not revere what it can consume at will. A man who is constantly present, constantly available, quickly becomes invisible, stripped of significance. People devour him, then toss him aside like a fruit with no flavor left. Machiavelli understood a merciless truth about human nature. The common is always cheap. Scarcity is what transforms an object or a person into something precious, feared, or even sacred. Gold shines in men's eyes, not because it glitters, but because there isn't enough of it to satisfy desire. Power functions the same way. The rulers of the past never mingled freely with the masses. They appeared only at chosen moments, like a solar eclipse, brief and overwhelming, forcing their subjects to tremble, to wait, to anticipate. The less you reveal, the more people invent about you, and what the imagination creates is often far more dangerous than what reality offers. Scarcity is not weakness. Scarcity is deliberate warfare. By reducing access to yourself, you generate longing. By pulling away, you create pursuit. By rationing your presence, your absence itself becomes a blade. Too many men destroy their worth by seeking approval, by making themselves easy to touch, easy to reach, easy to predict. That is the path of servants, not of rulers. Machiavelli's formula is viciously simple. Show up less, demand more, and the world will begin to treat you not as an ordinary pawn, but as a treasure. When you can be found everywhere, you are worth nothing. When you are rare, you become untouchable. That is the moment when others begin to fear the thought of losing you. Scarcity doesn't just protect your value, it multiplies it. When mastered, it wraps around you like an invisible aura, reshaping how others behave. People begin to weigh every interaction with you as if it carries hidden meaning. They grow cautious, careful, anxious. They stop seeing you merely as a person. You transform into a presence. And presence, properly crafted, is more intimidating than power itself. This aura is not mystical. It's nothing more than cold psychology. Machiavelli saw it unfold in the courts of Renaissance princes. A ruler who appeared rarely became the center of endless speculation. Nobles whispered, plotted, and fought simply to stand close to him. The prince barely needed to act. His scarcity did the work for him. The same law applies today. You can construct this aura for yourself, not by arrogance, but through discipline. Never explain why you are absent. Never justify silence. Never make excuses. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them compete to win your attention. Uncertainty makes people work harder. But beware. This weapon cuts both ways. The influence that scarcity produces can seduce you into thinking it's enough by itself. The danger is believing your legend and neglecting the substance behind it. If you are rare but fragile, people will eventually see through you. Scarcity without strength is a hollow mask. But if you are rare and formidable, your reputation becomes indestructible. The goal is balance. Appear enough that no one forgets you, but rarely enough that every glimpse of you matters. Be close enough to avoid hatred, yet distant enough to preserve mystery. That tension, not too near, not too far, is the true seat of authority. Those who learn this art do not merely possess power, they radiate it. Their absence stretches like a shadow before them, and their arrival feels like an event. They become figures people whisper about before they ever enter the room. They are perceived as important, untouchable, even perilous to cross. This is the dark craft of calculated scarcity. Done correctly, it does not only earn respect, it creates fear, and more dangerously, it breeds dependence. Why does this work so powerfully? Because people rarely evaluate worth rationally. They do not assign value by true utility. Instead, they measure value by difficulty of access. Human nature is flawed in this way, and Machiavelli turned that flaw into a weapon. His observation was ruthless. Men give little weight to what they obtain too easily. If you want to elevate your worth in the eyes of others, you must first reduce their access to you. Gold is worshipped not because of its innate usefulness, but because so few can own it. Apply this principle to yourself. If you are constantly available, constantly reachable, you collapse your own value. But if you ration yourself like a king who only opens his throne room to the worthy, your value multiplies in the minds of others. Scarcity creates tension. When people cannot have you whenever they wish, they begin to speculate. They wonder what you are doing, who you are with, what schemes you are preparing. Their imaginations inflate your stature, and imagination is always more potent than fact. A ruler who conceals his movements appears all-knowing. A man who does not answer every message seems busy, powerful, superior. But the modern age teaches the opposite. Constant connection, constant responsiveness, constant exposure. And yet, constant exposure kills power. When your every move can be traced, your value dissolves. You become ordinary, predictable, useful, perhaps, but never commanding. You turn from gold into running water, always flowing, always consumed, never treasured. The masters of history understood this. They would disappear from court, leaving their nobles in a state of anxiety. They would delay decisions until their subjects begged for answers. They would restrict access so tightly that a single meeting became a treasure worth boasting about. Even their enemies feared being excluded. Scarcity breeds longing, yes, but more importantly, it breeds dependence. Look at your own life. The co-worker who is always free to meet is ignored. The friend who always says yes is overlooked. The lover who is endlessly available soon loses their allure. Cruel though it is, we do not prize what we can easily obtain. But when something is out of reach, we assume it must be worth chasing. This is the brutal psychology of scarcity. People are wired to pursue what withdraws and dismiss what comes too easily. If you show everything, they grow bored. If you hide, they remain awake at night, trying to decode you. Machiavelli's first law is mercilessly clear. To project strength, you must make yourself scarce. Not by vanishing completely, but by appearing on your own schedule, in your chosen manner, like a sovereign entering his hall. If you are always answering, you are a servant. If others must wait for your word, you are a master. Scarcity is not weakness, it is active strategy. Silence is not emptiness, it is controlled restraint. Your absence forces others to move first. And when you finally speak, every word strikes with the force of thunder. When you show yourself, even a glance feels heavy with meaning. This is how leaders, warriors, and cunning rulers throughout time have magnified themselves by refusing to be ordinary. Scarcity is not chance. It is a tool. It must be sharpened deliberately. Machiavelli's brilliance was in weaponizing human weakness, in realizing that what is rare is automatically seen as more valuable. You must guard your presence like a miser guards his treasure. This does not mean disappearing forever. It means appearing on your terms, when and how you decide, so that every moment feels intentional. His strategy can be broken into simple but ruthless steps. First, withdraw deliberately. Stop making yourself endlessly visible, endlessly reachable. Do not attend every gathering, answer every call, or say yes to every demand. The moment you step back, people begin to wonder. Your silence becomes a riddle, and riddles create power. Second, control who gains access to you. A king does not fling open his gates to anyone who knocks. You too must guard your time. Make it clear without words that your attention is not free. When access is rationed, it becomes valuable. People approach you with caution, reverence, and sometimes even fear, because they know you could close the door at any moment. Third, appear selectively and with purpose. Every return to the stage must be deliberate. Even the smallest act, a word, a gesture takes on the weight of command when it is rare. People will hang on to your every move precisely because they don't see it often. Fourth, never vanish completely. Scarcity is not neglect. If you disappear forever, you risk being forgotten. The art lies in balance, enough presence to remind them, but never enough to satisfy them. That lack of satisfaction keeps them restless, guessing, obsessed. Fifth, shape perception through scarcity. If you are always seen, people spot your flaws. If you are rarely seen, they only see what you allow them to see. You can project confidence, power, even menace, and they will believe it, because they have no counter-evidence. Renaissance rulers understood this perfectly. They made ambassadors wait weeks for a single audience. The delay itself was domination. You do not decide when you see me, I decide when you see me. This was power distilled into time itself. You can wield the same today. In business, be the one whose time is sought after. In relationships, be pursued, not the pursuer. In every sphere, let your silence and absence speak for you. Scarcity shifts the game in your favor. It forces others to adapt to you, rather than the other way around. They must chase your schedule, not you theirs. They must compete for your attention, instead of you competing for theirs. And when they finally win a fragment of your time, it feels monumental, because you have trained them to believe it is. Machiavelli's law is as sharp as ever. Appear less, demand more, make them wait, make them work, make them hunger. Do this consistently, and you become not just respected, but pursued. Scarcity alone raises value, but to turn value into power, you must convert it into motion. You must make others move toward you. The powerful never chase, they attract. Machiavelli knew. A prince who runs after his subjects diminishes himself. A prince who forces subjects to run after him becomes their true ruler. How can you make others chase you willingly, even desperately? By wielding absence as a weapon. Delay responses. Do not rush to grant your time. The wait corrodes their confidence, makes them anxious, compels them to try harder. Delay weakens them, not you. Next, be unpredictable. If you can be mapped and timed, you can be dismissed. If no one can predict when you'll appear, when you'll respond, or how you'll react, you hold their attention like a snare. Controlled unpredictability keeps them restless, alert, cautious not to offend. Reward selectively. When you finally grant access, make it matter. If everyone receives your favor, it loses value. If only a few do, the rest will fight for it. Your approval becomes a prize. Use silence as a blade. Words are not always needed. Absence can be louder. Silence makes others project their own fears, desires, and assumptions onto you. They chase harder just to be sure they haven't lost you. And when you do step forward, when you finally appear, make every action feel deliberate, as though it carries the weight of destiny. Speak with clarity, act with purpose. People will amplify your presence because they rarely experience it. Your attention becomes addictive, your aura intoxicating. Machiavelli understood a truth few dare admit. People are slaves to uncertainty. The less they know about you, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the more power you wield. Appear rarely, act with precision, and let the hunger of others do the work for you. That is the art of scarcity, cold, ruthless, effective. Scarcity transforms you from a man into a force. People are drawn closer when they don't know where they stand with you. Doubt about your opinion of them, makes them strive harder to win your approval. Fear of losing your attention compels them to chase you even more fiercely. This is why the one thing you must never do is run after others. The instant you begin chasing, you surrender the high ground. You reveal that you depend on them more than they depend on you, and in doing so, you teach them to value you less. Study those who command loyalty, whether monarchs, corporate leaders, or generals, and you'll see the same pattern. They do not give their presence lightly. Their time is guarded. Their attention is rationed like rare currency. Their praise is sparing but intoxicating. Their silence when displeased is crushing. People contort themselves, bend backward, and work tirelessly just to hold on to their favor, and you can build the same gravity in your own world. In business, don't pitch yourself like a beggar desperate for acceptance. Make others prove their worthiness to work with you. In relationships, do not beg for love or validation. Let others compete for the gift of your presence. In every sphere of life, embody one principle. Your time is limited, your attention is valuable, and your approval is earned, never given freely. When people chase you, they make investments of time, energy, and pride. And the more they invest, the more terrified they become of losing what they've already sunk into you. This is the deeper principle Machiavelli understood. Scarcity does not just increase value, it creates a binding force. People attach themselves to what they cannot easily secure. They will protect you, serve you, even exalt you, not because you ask them to, but because they cannot bear to see you vanish. If scarcity multiplies your strength, then constant availability dissolves it. Few poisons are as deadly to authority as being always reachable, always predictable, always exposed. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago in royal courts, long before smartphones and emails. Familiarity does not breed intimacy, it breeds contempt. The more often people encounter you, the less seriously they take you. The easier you are to reach, the less weight your time carries. When you make yourself available to all, you create equality, and equality is fatal to influence. A king who mingles daily with his peasants ceases to feel like a king. A commander who fraternizes too often with his soldiers stops being a commander and becomes a comrade. A man who jumps at every call and answers every message tells the world that his time belongs to others. He ceases to be a figure of power and instead becomes a convenience, ordinary, replaceable, part of the scenery. Look at the playbook of rulers from history. They lived behind walls and gates, not because they feared the outside world, but because distance creates reverence. Their entrances were staged, rare, deliberate, electrifying. Those who wished to see them had to beg for an audience, sometimes waiting weeks. This was not vanity, it was calculation. By limiting access, they magnified their worth. People treasure what they cannot touch at will. Contrast this with the man who is always visible. His words lose potency. His absence is unnoticed. His return brings no anticipation. He becomes noise in the background. Even his gifts lose their magic, because what is expected never feels valuable. To give yourself freely is to teach others to exploit you. They will drain your time, consume your loyalty, and demand your energy without reciprocating because you have taught them that your supply is endless. Worse still, too much exposure strips away the veil of mystery. The more often people see you, the more they notice your flaws, your doubts, your imperfections. The aura that once surrounded you evaporates. What once impressed now feels ordinary. This is why Machiavelli warned that influence depends as much on perception as on reality. A leader who controls his appearances controls his image. A leader who is always present surrenders that control and becomes defined by others. This principle extends far beyond thrones and crowns. In business, the entrepreneur who attends every meeting and answers every request is not seen as a visionary, but as a subordinate. The executive who replies instantly to every email signals that he has nothing better to do. In personal life, the man who is always available soon becomes invisible to the one he desires. The harder to reach counterpart, however, becomes the object of pursuit. This law governs all human interaction. What is plentiful is overlooked, and what is scarce becomes irresistible. You may think your constant presence builds loyalty, but in truth, it erodes authority. It does not matter how talented, intelligent, or resourceful you are, if you are easy to obtain, people unconsciously categorize you as disposable. Machiavelli's counsel was brutal because it was true. He told princes to control not only their actions but also their visibility. To appear rarely was to suggest importance. To withhold oneself was to create a vacuum. And human beings rush to fill a vacuum with speculation, with desire, with anxiety. People competed to be included. They feared being left out. They treated every word as gold because it was rare. The lesson remains unchanged. If you want to wield power in your career, your relationships, or your social circles, you must discipline yourself to resist the urge to be endlessly present. Constant visibility may feel like strength, but it quietly robs you of power. It removes mystery, drains respect, and hands others control of your most precious resource, your time. The antidote is not arrogance, but restraint. Appear less often, speak more sparingly, give less freely. Let your absence be felt. When you are gone, it should sting like oxygen leaving the room. When you return, it should feel like a privilege. There are two kinds of power. The tangible kind that can be measured: wealth, armies, titles, and the intangible kind that can only be felt. Scarcity creates the second. It is not about what you openly do, but what people imagine you might do. When you limit your exposure, people begin to believe there are depths to you they cannot see. They suspect you are occupied with greater projects, aligned with stronger allies, orchestrating unseen moves. Their fear of exclusion builds a mythology around you. That mythology does more for your influence than any speech or display ever could. This is where scarcity transforms from tactic to sorcery. It converts speculation into loyalty and insecurity into obedience. People follow not because you ordered them, but because they are terrified of being outside your orbit. Scarcity produces four effects that make it lethal. First, silence becomes thunderous. When you rarely speak, each word feels deliberate. A brief sentence lands like a command. A pause becomes a riddle. People hang on your words, searching for meaning where there may be none. Their overthinking works in your favor. Second, scarcity amplifies your presence. When you do appear, the contrast is dramatic. Your return feels like an event. Your approval feels like an honor. People pay attention to every movement because scarcity makes gestures heavy with importance. Third, scarcity recruits others to guard your reputation. Those who wait for your attention will defend you zealously. They want to prove they deserve your favor, so they silence critics and defend your name, even in rooms you never enter. They protect your image, not out of devotion, but out of self-interest. They believe their proximity to you elevates them. Fourth, scarcity transforms absence into pressure. When you are not there, people wonder. Their imaginations fill the void with exaggerated power. They assume you are elsewhere, plotting, networking, rising. They fear being replaced, and this fear makes them chase harder. Remember this truth: power is never gained by pursuing others. It is gained when others are compelled to pursue you. Scarcity is not a gimmick, it is a way of being. The moment you stop throwing yourself at everyone and everything, you ascend in worth. When you discipline your presence, ration your time, and measure your words, you force people to notice. They notice when you vanish. They notice when you speak. They notice when you return. And noticing is the first step to reverence. Scarcity shifts the balance of need. When others require you more than you require them, the entire relationship tilts in your favor. You no longer audition for approval, they do. You no longer chase opportunity, it chases you. Scarcity not only preserves value, it constructs an aura. People stop seeing you as just a man or woman. They start perceiving you as a force, as something larger than life. They whisper about your silence, interpret your distance as strategy, and treat your presence like a gift. This aura is dangerous because it works even when you do nothing. Your silence becomes louder than words. Your absence becomes heavier than presence. Your approval becomes priceless because it is rare. People defend your name for their own survival, not for your benefit. But never forget, this is not magic. It is discipline. Anyone can flood the world with their chatter and their presence. Few have the willpower to hold back. Scarcity is restraint. It is refusing to over-explain, refusing to overgive, refusing to always show up. The weak beg to be noticed. The strong force the world to feel their absence. Yes, scarcity has a cost. You must have real strength behind the curtain. If you are rare but hollow, eventually people discover the emptiness. Scarcity without substance is a bubble waiting to burst. But scarcity, combined with genuine ability, real knowledge, true resources, that builds a legend. With every moment you hold back, the myth of your power grows. This is Machiavelli's formula. It is not polite, it is not fair, but it is effective in palaces, in boardrooms, in relationships. The desperate are forgotten, the rare are revered. So stop explaining every move, stop sharing every thought, stop scattering your presence where it is unearned. Become the one others seek, the one they cannot easily reach, the one they whisper about when you are gone. Let them feel your absence, let them chase your shadow, let them fight for your presence. Be scarce, be valued, be feared. And when you finally walk into the room, let the weight of your rarity strike before you utter a single word.